Welcome to the Strong Man Say podcast, another episode, and welcome back to me. No, Mason. That was a good episode. I watched that.
We listened to it.
We've done an episode before that, haven't we?
Yes,
we're a bit behind. I think it's in my head because I just listened to it. I watched it while I was uploading it and stuff like that. And it was very good. It was interesting.
A fan of the show?
It was good because usually we get hassled or when's the next episode coming out? When's the next episode coming out? I'm like, well, we sit here and talk through it. So it's not that exciting. But when I hadn't heard it and I was actually quite interested in what the conversation was going to be like, I was kind of like, Louis, where's the fucking podcast, bro? I want to listen.
Send me the raws.
Just send me send me the audio at least.
Yeah.
So I was very interested to listen to it, and it was quite good. But it's good to be back for another episode. We are definitely endeavouring to make it more consistent, or we have been more consistent.
It's been very consistent.
Yeah, 100%. We just go once Louis is finished with uni, we'll be back on top. Hey.
Yes, absolutely.
See, it's not us. It's not us at the moment.
It's my fault, sorry.
Yeah, we're actually 8 episodes deep.
Yeah, we've got 10 in the bank, but don't worry about that. We're filming 3 a week. Strongman in Australia. The first one off the cab this week was Static Monsters worldwide. Did you have any athletes do it? Did you catch any of it?
Neither.
Oh, yeah, none?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
If I did, I'm really sorry to someone that did it, but I'm 100% sure that I didn't have anyone do it.
I didn't hear much. I didn't see much. I didn't hear much. Victoria, who ran that leg for us?
I actually don't. Oh, okay.
Stronghouse and Peak Strength.
Yep.
Peak Strength and who?
Stronghouse.
Stronghouse Melbourne.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
They often do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, Statics without Chad overseeing it, like the Instagram plugging it, and I guess constantly reminding people that it is a worldwide ranking system.
Yeah.
It's very hard to just do the statics down the road because there's probably no one in your weight class.
Yeah.
They're not big comps,
No.
but they're not meant to be big comps. They're meant to be everywhere accessible for everyone to go into a ranking system. So
It is quite niche. Chad's not running it anymore?
I don't think so. I don't think he's posted anything or had anything to do with it for quite some time.
I wonder who's running it.
Actually not sure.
Sorry, this is boring.
It's been passed on to it.
But I'm more curious than anything else.
Yeah, so when Statics first came out,
Yeah, it was big.
Huge.
Yeah, it got a lot of traction, and we had the world champ. I remember going up and flying up for the world championship in Queensland, which was at a venue, a theatre venue and stuff. It was lights, camera, action. There was some good internationals that came over for it. It really did hit the ground running.
Yep.
What do you think? Do you think it has continued potential, or do you think it'll fall off without Chad driving?
I think you'd still need to plug it a lot, but that deadlift is not a fun deadlift for most people.
This is my thought. I feel like it has great legs, and I don't feel like it's going to go because I feel like there's enough niche people who enjoy doing it that it'll continue to kind of come along.
Yep.
I don't think it'll get bigger or any bigger than it is. If anything, it'll slowly maybe peter out if someone's not really, really, really driving it. I think there's enough bad strongmen that are good static login 18-inch deadlifters that
there's enough big boys that don't want to reach the ground.
Yeah, there's enough big boys. Is there a sliding scale going from competitive strongman to realizing you're not a competitive strongman to going probably still not good enough to be a powerlifter, so I'll do an 18-inch deadlift and a log press, and then sliding into, what do we slide into after that?
I think
arm lifting.
Static Monsters would be the bench only comp.
Wrestling, arm wrestling, huh?
Yeah. Well, Static Monsters would be push pull.
Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah, push pull. Then there's bench only.
Yep.
Do we go to that? Is there a bench only version?
Arm wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think the goal was it's an axle, it's a log.
Yeah.
You should be able to get it anywhere
in
some description.
Yeah,
but if it was log dead stone with a conventional deadlift and a stone, I think now that it's taken off, it would blow up even further.
I really like the idea of, because Static Monsters overseas, there was a Static Monsters overseas. So there was a Static Monsters overseas, and it was an axle deadlift from the floor.
Yep.
And I believe it was no straps.
Oh, that's terrible. I mean, that's better for me that likes pressing a heavy log.
Yeah.
Much better for me in terms of a total.
Yeah, I think it leveled out the total. And I think maybe a stone. And I think they also had one which was a normal deadlift and a log.
Yeah.
So, which I could see being, the 18-inch deadlift seems like half a quarter of a deadlift. It's not an exciting spectator event, in my opinion. I would love to see like log dead stone, whether it's a total or whether you formulate a total based off the total. Do you know what I mean? Like each lift has a certain weight, do you know, based upon it. So it's not just, well, you've got it's great for me, but like you've got a giant fuck off deadlift. So you know what? You hit a 180 stone, they hit a 190 stone, they hit a 150 log, you hit a 140 log, but you got 40 kilos on the deadlift, so you win.
Yeah, but that's powerlifting.
Yeah.
I mean, the squat holds more
closer.
Yeah, the squat holds more like weight than what a stone does.
Yeah, for sure. And there's more variability. Like stones now with the loading, it's a little bit different, but you can't like edge someone out. It's like, well, we all top out at 200.
Yeah,
because we all got the same stone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like there's less like 2 kilo increments between each other, you know? Yeah, and I think like when it's like total, I just feel like the deadlift, it's like having a bench press and a deadlift. Like on a push-pull, same sort of deal, right? When you do a push-pull, it's like, well, if you're kind of not great at the bench, someone might get 20 kilos on you on the bench, but you might potentially have like 40 kilos or 50 kilos on someone who's got a great bench with short arms and a shit deadlift. Do you know what I mean?
So
like
you'd have to make it like an axle deadlift.
Yeah. Something
and like
that levels
not
it out.
suited or something.
Anyway, postulating about Static Monsters, but Static Monsters was on the weekend. I had a few clients do it; they did quite well, but most were just kind of like jump-ins. You know, no one trained specifically for Static Monsters. It was kind of like, well, we're pretty strong at the moment. You want to do it? It's around the corner. Go for it. Hit some numbers, have fun, but we're not focusing on it, kind of thing.
No, I don't think too many people would.
No, but it was
like you'll focus on like a max log.
Yeah,
but that deadlift, like you're not going to spend 8 to 10 weeks absolutely hammering that height.
And just on that as well, like hammering that height for 8 to 10 weeks, because it is quite high, probably is going to have little, zero, or detrimental carryover to your deadlift going back to floor.
Is a very fancy rack pull.
Yes. In probably more in-your-face news in Australian Strongman, we had log dead stone at Coco's.
Yep.
Which is quite interesting because obviously Coco's was the person who ran Static Monsters for a long time as well.
Yeah. He's done a log dead stone comp for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been like tied in and sort of wrapped up with anything else.
Watch it, seeing some stuff. A few records being broken.
Watched the live stream, had one person doing it, so got to watch most of it.
Yep.
Live stream was, I didn't see some of the stones at the end, like the live stream was like cutting in and out.
Yeah, okay.
But I saw all the posts and stuff afterwards.
Okay. General standard was a lot of competitors, thoughts, feelings.
Yeah, I think there was 30 or 40.
Oh, that's good. That's a good number.
Standard was pretty good. Like it was pretty spread out. I think the lightweight men, it was a bit thin in terms of like numbers.
Yep.
But yeah, everything else, like the women and stuff, it was pretty spread out.
Yep. We had a few records. We had Scott Walker with the under 90 kilo record.
Records are meant to be broken. And someone built like me should not hold a deadlift record. That's shame on every other long-armed fuck that's in the sport.
352, good deadlift.
Yeah.
Great deadlift at like under 90.
Yeah, his 340 looked worse.
Yeah, okay.
Like
so
his
he turned it
second.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His 352 looked much better. But he had the record at 330 that he took off Mark. He did it at Werribee, Raising of the Dead.
And that was a second attempt anyway,
And
wasn't
then he
it?
had a crack at 360.
Yeah.
Which I think I think he's done 360 in the gym.
Yeah.
So it should be there.
It's close.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to make 362 the record now.
Well, if I just do 382,
382.
then I can just take the 90s and the 105 record.
Oh yeah, so this is scooting through to our next thing. We did, before we hit this, we had Colonel Senders.
I don't know if it's his real name.
I don't know his real
really
name.
hope it is.
We met him. We did garage and stuff like that. He did the silver dollar deadlift there as well. Did the 185 stone at 80, which is the current world record, which is fantastic, right? Which is awesome for him. Looked great, like really solid effort. And he trains out of Empire too. One thing we were talking about yesterday, like those stones are quite nice as well. That he makes,
we
like
saw
the
those
molds and stuff like that.
Grudge that we went
I
up to
feel
as
like
well.
if you have a general issue with getting those bigger standard submit stones, through into lap and stuff like that, they're probably a little bit kinder from like a size perspective by the looks of it as well. Because we're kind of judging them.
They don't look much different, but
no, not much different, but
an inch smaller is
definitely makes a big difference.
Big difference.
And like I definitely see that like the under 80s and under 90s, when you're getting up to those 180 stones, 190 stones, 200 stones, happens a little bit higher for the 105s, and you get some big 105s like a Joel or something that it's so tall, like a Ran, giant fucking wingspan, nice and tall, fucking gangly Spider-Man, strong man. Louis.
Should have a 200 stone. What are you doing?
Yeah, where's your 200 stone?
Sorry.
And that size becomes a little bit of less of an issue, but you get like the more compact strong men, strong women in those weight classes, and the size is, negotiating that size becomes the biggest issue, right?
Yeah. Especially like, that 200 mark, and then the same with the women, like that 150 mark.
Yes. Stone gets a bit bigger.
Yeah, which you can see with like Camilla's previous 150s going through the knees.
Yeah.
And then you see where this stone comes through the knees.
Yeah,
like
quite comfortably.
Yeah, it's just that little bit nicer where it just pulls straight through.
Cam 153.1 world record, which she had a crack at Log Dead Stone. Another fabulous issue. Fabulous.
And a crack at lightweights in Toowoomba.
Yeah, okay, so she did both.
Well at the start of the year.
So she had 2 attempts at that. Finally cracks it at LDS and Coco. So she was absolutely fucking stoked. And it was a fabulous stone lift. It was sticky towards that like middle bit and kept going, and it was like perfect, right?
Yeah,
Gets
good
to
at the
bar.
extension. That compared to Log Dead Stone that we had here.
Yeah.
In terms of like setting things up easy for athletes.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah, of course.
Like in terms of loading over a yoke compared to the platform.
Just like hitting the bar and being able to roll back on it and stuff like that with that round cross beam.
Yeah, the one we had down here had like the rubber
lip
over the top.
A flat edge,
And it was very shallow. Like everyone was so scared of loading over the thing that I think they undercut their extension. So it's just really hard conditions compared
definitely
to
different.
Which when you want records, you want easy conditions.
Yes.
Like I'm all for it.
Which is why like you go to a comp that you feel like is going to be better for you to hit a record. Like that's not a slight on anything else besides the fact that like if you're a competitor and you want to break a record, you go where you think you got the best chance of breaking a record.
Or you have to set it up and do the work yourself.
Yeah.
Like that stone came in for Camilla to lift it.
Yes.
Specific for that.
Yeah, 100%.
The same as there's a 201 kilo stone made over at Chaos in the UK because the 105 British record is 200.
200, yeah.
And then like Ree over there has been like, if you want to come over and like amongst that comp, try to push for the 90s world record, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Because there'll be a couple of 90s guys here
It's
doing
currently
it.
200 or something like that as well, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, we've got the 201, we may as well do it.
Yeah.
So like over there, they will, like the 80s record got beaten twice by like 1 kilo.
Yeah, they're happy
They
to...
kept making a new stone by 1 kilo. So like, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Like as long as it's not your comp, your specific stone, your friend judging.
Yeah.
And you just do it for you.
Yeah.
But to still go to someone else's comp and be like, can we get a stone made so I can break a record?
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
totally
I think
agree.
it's great.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like we want people, like if you want the sport to grow, if you want more exposure, like that kind of stuff gets exposure, that video will get shared, like that's what we're looking for. So, all for it. Here's one question. Are you for the 2 weight class break?
No, but I never was.
No, yeah, I totally agree.
And we could go through every national record and then go, oh, but the lighter weight class has a heavy, like,
which is very common.
Nas Axel,
105
record.
Yeah.
And then the same as like anything else, which we don't do. And then I think there's an argument of like, oh, national records, we don't do it, but world records we do. And it's like, no, we don't in world records. We don't in powerlifting. We don't in weightlifting.
No other sport.
You sign up and you compete within your weight class.
No sport that I know of. I mean, someone might listen to this, and Cam and Carl probably will listen to this and get straight in our inboxes. But like, no sport that I know of, no sport that I can bring to mind. Like I know that in powerlifting, like I've got powerlifting records from back in the day, and like if I had the deadlift record, and I had the deadlift only record, and I had the push-pull deadlift record, and I did it within the weekend, but I had to enter each category. I had to weigh in for each, do you know what I mean? Like I had to do it multiple times to get the multiple records. I just couldn't go, oh yeah, well, like I'm going to break this record, so that's the 120 record as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I don't know any other sport, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, but like I don't know any other sport that does that. I think you're 100% right. The category that you enter is the category that you're competing in, is the category that you can break a record in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, do they have like the 200-meter sprinters? Do they just time them at 100 meters halfway and be like, oh, that's a new 100-meter record?
Yeah.
We'll just give it, it's not the race.
Which wouldn't happen. But yeah,
you're not in the fucking race.
Yeah, exactly.
Go
yeah,
in the race against
You're
those
not
guys.
racing. You're not like in the competition with that. Like it's no.
Yeah.
Because the same thing happened, obviously, competing in open weights and weighing in, right? Like that's like if you're competing in the opens, like you can go for the open record, but like it's null and void.
Yeah.
This is competing in ASM. I'm not competing in 105s. It doesn't matter if I fucking weigh 104.
Yeah.
Like I'm registered. I'm competing. This is what I'm doing at this.
I also think you should support your weight class.
Yeah.
So if you sign up as a 90 and you break a 90 record, that's the thing that gets shared. That's the thing that you're supporting. That's the thing that you're growing. You can't just be like, well, I took the 105 record. It's like, you're not in the 105s. You're not supporting the 105s. You're not promoting the 105s. You're just snatching their shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think like, I agree. I don't think that should be a thing. I don't know where else it is a thing. And I don't know whether it's just a made up thing that's been shoved down the throat of organisers.
Well, it's a technically, because it's like, well, technically I'm under 73 or technically I'm under 105.
Yeah, sure. 100%. So I definitely, I think that's like probably something that needs to be addressed within like record.
Yeah, and probably never will.
Probably not.
No.
Nah.
Like most records, there'll be a group that goes, well, this is what it is. And someone else is like, well, this is not what it is. Like all of Mitch's records here.
I'm sure there's a podcast where there's some record, like where we've had this record chat about the dislike of records. Like someone, I remember like I got asked about whether I wanted to be on the board of like a record keeping thing. I was like, fucking no. Like one, I don't like records. Like I'm cool. Like I'm happy to break a record. Like I'm happy. Like I'd be happy to go and do a comp and try to break a record. That's fun. But I don't want to be the one to keep them because like my ideas on the records is like, well, if you drop a yoke, it's not a run. Yeah. Right. If it's how long should a yoke run be? Well, 15 meters. How long should a farmer's run be? Well, maybe it's the same, but you should like it's obviously going to be no drops, right? Like there's so many variables with strongman that I just think it's relatively null and void. And then you got the argument with the females, like stone heights. Yeah. Like, do you think it should be 1.1 for females?
Not phased because I don't have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no one gives a fuck if you don't have to. And that's it. That's the most honest answer.
But the obvious answer would be, yeah, they shouldn't load to the same height as the tall people.
Yeah. Like you got Tom Stoltman and fucking Ree Lovelace and Camilla loading to 1.2. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not the same thing, really. No, but then it's like, oh well, in competition, do we make it all? I mean, like in competition, 1.3 for men, 1.2 for females.
Yeah, often. So OSG's got a different stone height run for men and women.
Yes.
The funny side is, though, the under 80s men load to the same height as the women. So it's got like the women's height / under 80s men, and it's the lower 6 stone run, and then the 90s up do the normal run.
I mean, Louis, I'm looking at you, but like we're not saying anything here. Just saying. Women and under 80s have the same height.
I'm torn because I'm probably the height of most of the under 80s, so it's a benefit to me. But if they did that to me, I'd be like, whoa.
Oh, strong man. Thank you very much.
I can put it on my head. So I found that very interesting where that divide was with the 80s guys.
Yeah, strong manlets. And then...
And I'm pretty sure there's under 64s that are taller than the 80s.
Oh, probably, yeah, 100%.
Probably more consistently, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it all very interesting, but I think in summation of that conversation, Locked Dead Stone crushed. That was really cool. Cool to see 3 records broken, 2 world records on the stone. There's probably some inclination, like that's probably... If 2 world records are broken in 1 competition, like I think that probably leaves some... good indication that great stones to be breaking records on.
Yep.
right?
I also think we're a country that are very good at stones.
We are, yeah, and we actually
We've had multiple and still have multiple world records. What if you count the 64 and 73? We've also got the open women's world record. We've got women that are close to the 82s. Yeah. We've got the 80s men. We've got the 90s men still.
And the 105s is very
the
shady,
105s,
but we don't have it, but
every
every motherfucker on the internet thinks they've got the world's record on the 105 stone.
Yeah.
Every time it gets posted, someone's like, I did fucking 227 back in my gym. And you're like, what?
So like across most of the categories besides the open men, which that's screwed because of Tom Stoltman.
Yes. 2 questions for you then. The first is I forgot. The second is do you think that we consistently say that the stone load should be lighter in competition because we want to see it finished, but the fact that the competition or promoters are constantly pushing a heavier stone upon competitors, do you think that helps us get really fucking good at stones? Or do you think it's because we're convicts?
Convicts. Because we...
Years banging away at stones.
Yeah. No, we were just kind of, like, as a country, like, we were behind on overheads, deadlifts, like a lot of stuff. But stones were always, like, comparable for just no reason.
Yeah.
And that was before we even did heavy stones in competition.
Yeah.
So I don't think
Alana had the world record in the stone.
Yeah.
We've had, like, quite good history of, like, stone records and heavy stones in the country.
So I don't know what that actually comes from. If it just comes from like our life and like people living in smaller countries and maybe like living more on farms and things like that. Like we have less cities in general.
Potentially.
Kids go out and actually play more, not like if they're in the UK or like in America where they're mostly stuck in cities.
Yeah,
or maybe the people that do the sport are mostly stuck in cities that have access to the sport.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard to say. I generally feel like because it's kind of like competition-based, access-based. We were talking about this before, like our weight class. We'll probably just get into it. Hey, weight classes, some in Australia, like we're talking about the 105s in general as a cohort being behind the world standard on the deadlift. Yeah, right. They're pretty shit at deadlifts, right?
You said it. I mean, I said it before, but you said it now.
He said it off camera. I'm repeating what he said.
Well, that's because we were talking about the 90s record, and I was like, well, yeah, I've done 350s. Scott's beaten that, and he's done 360. We've got multiple 90s that are in the mid-threes.
Absolutely.
Take the suit off, take 20-odd kilos off or something like that. And then the
I haven't seen a 105
105s
crack with 350 in a while.
in anything.
Nah.
Maybe a silver dollar.
Which is not a lift.
I actually see a
May
lot
as
of
well
people
put that in
training
fucking
silver.
static monsters, hey.
I see a lot of people doing silver dollar where it's like they're getting like that mid-threes or high threes.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really strong. And I'm thinking back to when we did it on the stiffest Goliath bar at Mason's.
Yeah.
And we both tied out at like 460.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm very short, so it's like great for me.
Yeah.
Barely breaks the ground with the stiffest bar. If it was a deadlift bar, it'd still be on the ground.
Yeah, I've seen some that look like they're still on the ground. It's just not a lift.
But yes, the 105s, they can move with heavy weight, which is comparable to overseas. And
this is what I was going to say.
Even some of our overheads.
Not even comparable, better.
Yeah.
We move a heavy yoke. I can list 5 people who will run 400 kilos really fucking well. Guys overseas get crushed by yokes. And you see that with competitions. You see that when you go to a world overseas, right? You go to a world's level competition, it's like 400, which is not that heavy. It's like that's our national standard here, right? Like 400 for 10 by 10 was our national standard for the 105s. We go over to Europe, like in fucking Czech Republic, it's 450, right?
Yeah.
Heavy as fuck. You go to UK, they probably look at a 400 kilo, like, do you know what I mean? Like no one's running 400 in the 105. Not much. Like they are, but it's generally, I would say that like they're behind in yoke. They're understanding all the expectation. But the UK boys all have fucking wild logs.
Yeah.
And overhead presses. Where Australia, traditionally, getting better now, has been behind on overheads. Do you know what I mean? So like, and crushing at stones. It's very interesting geographically what countries seem to be good at and like why is that? Is it just the people leading the charge?
Yeah, I think if you've got a few people pushing the front, they'll push each other and keep growing.
Of course, you'll rise with the
massively.
tide, right? And coaches, like there's specific coaches, like you're looking, like here, there's like a few, like a handful of key coaches and stuff like that. Then there's peripheral coaches, but like who's driving the sport there? Like what are they good at? What's working? What's happening overseas? Who's driving that? Like it's very interesting geographically. I think it's the coaching. I think it's the competitions, and I think it's competitive pool. I think it's a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
How they get into the sport, where they come into the sport from. Powerlifting, probably a big funnel from here. A lot of people overseas jump into strongman.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people here jump into strongman, right?
No, I think the bulk of our 105s are like quite light as well.
Yeah.
Most of them all sit just on or just under 105.
Yeah.
The heaviest would be like 110.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be ones heavier, but it's not like overseas where like the 105s are much bigger.
Yeah, 118.
Much heavier. Yeah.
115. It's reality. I always found that interesting. The next thing that we're going to talk about, which was sort of tying back into like the dual records thing, because this is more like, and this wasn't something that popped up, but we were sort of debating about this. Like, well, do you take a natural record and the performance based, like in a non-tested federation, can you claim a natural record, or do you have to do that in a natural competition? I would assume so. Yeah. Could you organize your own stone and your own test afterwards? Do you know what I mean? And be like, there we go.
Possibly. I mean, if there's a natural federation now, which there is.
There is.
Which means there's a governing body.
But what's the
which means that it should obviously come back to them if the natural records are under the governing body.
Yes.
You know, IPF records are under IPF. Yep. Otherwise, they're nothing.
Yes. The governing body in Australia and overseas, I believe overseas tested.
Yep. I don't know how many, or like I don't know how the testing.
But in Australia, I don't hear of any testing. Do they test?
I'm not sure.
It would be my opinion that like you have to test.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like at least the top 10% or the podium getters, which is expensive. Like we run the APL tested comps.
Yep.
And it's expensive per weight class. Do you know what I mean? Like per test, it's like 300 something bucks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you have 30 competitors and you cashing $100 from each, and you make $3,000 for the competition, right? And you're getting T-shirts for everybody, right? At $20 a pop or whatever it is. It's expensive, right? So, and then you've got competition fees or whatever else, whatever it costs you to run a competition. And then you've got to test top 10%, it's only $3, but it's $900.
Yep.
So it's very hard to test for a comp unless you're charging more for those natural federations, right?
Yeah, that'd be the only way, is to like factor in that we have to test and we have to charge more.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, obviously the age old saying is tested federation or tested sports does not mean natural sports. Yep. Do you know what I mean? It's different things. Tested does not mean natural all the time, unfortunately. It is the way we would assume that with powerlifting. This is the one thing that I really like about the natural federation. Right. The one thing that I really, really like about having an option and an avenue for the natural federations of like strongman is in bodybuilding, you have a choice. Right.
Yep.
You have the choice to go tested, non-tested. In did I say bodybuilding first or powerlifting? Powerlifting, tested, non-tested. If you want to go to strongman, you had strongman.
Yep. Right.
Which is fine because I mean like you just make the assumption that like, well, there's going to be a mixed bag, and it is a sport which is fantastic. Guys who are not using PEDs have some strengths. Generally, they'll move really well. They'll be more skillful. Not always more skillful, not always move better, but they have an opportunity to gain points, an advantage where they'll often maybe suffer behind on like the static events. Not always, but generally going to be the case. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah.
Right? But then when you offer a alternative, we would like to assume that only people who do not use have an outlet now to go compete in a natural federation, and then you have the other federation.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to see people like crossing over or deciding, I haven't ran anything for like a year, I've kind of had some time off, I'll go do like the natural federation.
And this is like where the problem comes up, which is like the natural federation tested federation does not mean natural federation, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we do need to be testing that, and you would hope for the sanctity of sporting morality and ethics that people were doing that, right? I just think we need to make sure that In powerlifting, it happens. We know it happens. In bodybuilding, we know it happens. You've got two fucking options.
Everything it happens.
You've got two options. At least with athletics, you know that everyone's taking something to run the fastest 100 meters, or if you're doing the Tour de France, there's no option, right? But you're supposed to be natty, like CrossFit. You're supposed to be natty, which means morally you should not.
Yeah.
And should never have done. Maybe. Debatable, right? But people do. But there's no other option. If you had natural cycling and drug-tested cycling, and untested cycling, well, you would hope that it would be pretty straightforward. But for some reason, in strength sports, we have two different options, and yet people still, while there's an untested federation, still jump into tested competitions after having used performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah. I don't know why that
Solution? Is there a solution?
Is there a solution? There's not an easy solution to that. That's people that just don't feel like they're good enough to be competitive in the untested.
We're getting off track here, but this is valuable.
Yeah. And then decide, well, I'll go and do tested or because the weights are lighter.
Yeah.
But if they're not strong enough to do the untested, it's like they probably shouldn't be running a heap of gear or like figure out why do they need to run a heap of gear to still be shit in tested or untested.
Yeah. What's your opinion on, I think this is a very heated topic, and I think this is where the grey area is, but what's your opinion on timelines from being, having used a banned substance, if we just use like a WADA example, like a WADA banned substance, and competing in a tested federation?
I think 4 years is like the standard, right?
Yep.
People get banned for 4 years.
Any substance?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a different timeline on different substances. I think if it's banned, it's 4 years.
And what's your opinion on it? Not WADA's.
Not WADA's. I think 4 years, like, if one of the guys decided when they were younger, like, I'm going to jump on and, like, train in the gym, and then 3 years later find strongman and go, oh, this is cool, maybe I'll do this, and then be like, well, you can't do tested now forever. Because of that thing you did. It's like, well, it's probably not helping them as, like, it's definitely helped them along the way, but it's probably not helped them as much as it's worth kicking them out. So, like, 4 years to me, if you were taking stuff and you want to go and do naturals, don't compete in naturals for at least, like, 4 years.
Yeah,
and that's something that you would just have to know yourself and be like,
sure.
okay, morally, I'm going to do the right thing for 4 years.
It's an interesting one.
And then go and do it.
Yeah.
Because in that 4 years, especially from taking stuff to not taking stuff, you might not even be in the sport.
Yeah.
You might be injured.
and
You
you
might
know
be like,
what?
fuck this.
The worst
This
part
isn't
is,
fun anymore.
once you do jump on that roller coaster, often when you come off, you get weaker than what you were naturally for some time. Like,
Especially if your training and nutrition was quite poor and you used that as a way to get stronger and didn't fix your shit along the way and then stop, then you're back to someone who can't train like, who trains like shit and eats like shit.
I do disagree, but I just think there's so many variables with this conversation. Like if you have someone do powerlifting and then use drugs and then they cross over to boxing or cycling, like, is it okay then? Because you really didn't get any specific advantage, but you have had an advantage of a period of time using anabolic or androgenic substances to aid your performance and your physiology, right?
Yeah, but you can't enforce a lifetime you're out because there's no way of testing for that.
Because there's no way of testing of it.
Yeah.
But morally, as a human being, it's my opinion that guy who decided to take gear because he was a gym rat and wanted to take and did a few cycles when he was younger and then wants to come compete in strongman, fucking saddle up, cunt. like you're in now. Yeah. You're in the club. Like, you made a choice. You're a fucking man or a woman, but you're a man. You made a choice. Take responsibility for your actions. That's the way it goes. Too bad, so sad. Took advantage, right? You got advantage.
It's a nice idea, but like morals in sports don't
it doesn't happen. Yeah,
align very often.
I know, but that, like, in my opinion, is like, if anybody has used performance-enhancing drugs in the past, I do not think morally or ethically you should go compete in a sport that is meant to not have, like I'm not going to go fucking leave strongman or powerlifting and go compete at the Torium Pro, right?
Yeah.
One, because I would never be good enough because I'm 32 and taking up CrossFit is very hard. But two, like, I don't think that like there's enough carryover there where I don't think it would be right to use performance enhancing drugs in a sport, gain 10 years of advantage physiologically, and then cross over to another sport after a few years not using it and doing a different sport and being like, yeah, no, it's fine. Like I'm just doing a not test for sport now, but I spent 10 years using PEDs.
What about playing local footy?
Yeah, and this is there's
a lot of guys that play local footy.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So and like boxing or like local footy or rugby, like you're not supposed to use drugs, performance drugs, and it's really like it's a really grey area. Like, well, now you're just stuck to bodybuilding, powerlifting, or strongman. You know, like and
arm wrestling.
Do you know what? Like the argument would be that if you went and you did footy, like, and you were training strongman or powerlifting, like, you're far worse off being a big fucking lug who can't breathe.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably worse. But at the same time, if you hit a motherfucker, and something happens because you hit them fucking hard, and they're like, well, you're using performance drugs.
Yeah.
Like, then you're liable, probably. Like, I don't know, it's to some degree. Like, there's probably some element of that. There's probably some element of it's just ethically not right. You know what I mean? Like, if you're using drugs in a sport that you're not used to use drugs, like then that's probably ethically and morally probably not okay.
Yeah. I think the obvious ones of people using actual anabolics, and it's like, well, that's a no, you shouldn't.
Yes.
But it's like peptides.
Yeah,
BPC,
yeah. This is what I'm saying. Like, there's so many layers to it. Like,
so all the fat loss things, all the other types of things, all of that. If you're in like the natural federations and it's like, oh, I'm just using peptides for recovery, you're not natural anymore. No. And just because they can't afford probably to test for every single component and it's not on the list that's tested, so you pass, doesn't mean that it's okay.
Yeah. It's like, it's just playing the game of like, how do I get around the testing, right? And get more out of which is what sport is. It's what we talk about with strongman, the rules. Bending the rules is the goal, right?
Yeah,
to get the highest performance.
If you tear something and you're like, this is going to take ages to heal, but if I take BPC, it'll recover in 2 months.
Yeah.
Heal like a natural fucking caveman.
Which,
like, deal with it.
Which, if you're in a real testing pool, if you're a real athlete in a real testing pool, you can't do that.
No.
But if you compete in powerlifting, like, we're not going to test for that.
No.
There's no testing pool. No one's rocking up at your door at 6 a.m. to do a test, right? If you're in legitimate testing sports, like governed by
weightlifting and everything like that, they can't do IVs.
No.
So
absolutely
you can't weight cut
no.
and then go jump on an IV.
No. That's wider. So like do our federations, natural federations and stuff, are we talking like, no, you can't use, like, it's wider based, like you can't use anything. Like if you're...
I think the premise of natural is just like, you just eat food, drink water.
Protein, creatine.
Get strong. And do what you can.
Yeah.
And that is naturally how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So putting...
If you put a slim pin in your body, you're fucked up.
Yeah, but if a needle goes under your skin to benefit you in some way...
And that doesn't mean start smoking it. It doesn't mean get out your fucking glass pipe, put your BPC in there and start cracking out a lighter. It means if you're using a substance where you go, well, this is probably not okay for me to use in a natural federation, you shouldn't be fucking using it, right? Is that common sense, right? But then like the peptide thing is like, well, do you wait 4 years after you take BPC? Because you should have just let it heal, bro.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I don't know. And then like, if you want to do the footy thing, it's like, well, the boys are on the bags on the weekend. Like, that's not WADA approved.
No. But they're not on the bags before the game.
Yeah.
Because that's a different story.
That's a performance enhancing drug then.
Yes. They all come out super confident and then just get floored.
I mean, like, let's talk to NFL
15
guys.
15 minutes later, they all just go...
Well, let's talk to like the NFL guys doing micro doses of mushrooms and stuff before going out. You know what I mean? Like that would be hard to test for, I imagine.
That's the thing that gets overlooked is like musicians and people having like...
Beta blockers.
Yeah, to like lower anxiety and things like that. Yep. That's the one thing that gets kind of like, oh, that's not really helpful.
Cool, that's okay.
No, imagine like, you know how stressed people get going out to compete and like how stressed you are, like especially if like there's a max lift event one and you're anxious and you're like, oh, my legs feel a bit weak.
Yeah.
If you have something that calms your nerves, That's going to help massively.
Well, and I think that it is on the wider list because things like archery, shooting, you're not allowed to take
To
beta
keep a
blockers.
still hand.
Yeah, because it does impede. It's a performance enhancing drug, right? So, performance enhancing drug thing is wildly grey.
People
and
look at it
varied.
as steroids, and it's like that's a very small part of it all.
And the other thing is like there's so many layers to it, and like creatine's performance enhancing, caffeine's performance enhancing. Like, where do you draw your line in the sand? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you draw your line in the sand at like, well, you can't take pot because it helps recovery, or like CBD? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a recovery and performance enhancing drug. Do you know what I mean? Like, where do you draw the line of like, well, creatine and protein's okay, but like technically CBD comes from like a marijuana plant, so like I think I don't know the ins and outs of that, but like that's in people's mind. It's like, oh well, it's cannabis.
Yeah.
So that's on my no list. Well, cannabis. Then where do we go from there? Like what's your sliding scale of okay? Because if caffeine's cool, creatine's cool, protein's cool, like all the DMMA, which was like in the like if you're still hunting the old school Jack formula, which is herbal speed, nicotine is fine, right? Which is a drug and a very highly addictive drug. I know because I recently stopped nicotine, but like it was like it's one of those things where like it was like post workout, like I would really want nicotine, and before workout, I'd really feel like I need nicotine, like to bring my arousal up.
Chris Duffin and another guy had a really good podcast on it.
Yeah,
and the guy goes into like performance enhancing of nicotine, and he was talking about like memory, like retention.
Yeah,
and if he's studying or he's learning something, and he'd have like half a thing of nicotine
patches,
like half a thing of gum. He was talking about like 1 milligram going a long way.
Yeah,
and like his memory retention being so much better.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and like it becomes part of your ritual and stuff. Like that's cool.
So if you're in untested sport and you're just thinking about steroids, also know that there's
it's just kind of like
so many other benefits
and it's
of
like
things.
There's a lot of ways to get performance enhancement out of other drugs that are actually okay on that, like not on that list, right? But then it's like, well, where do you ethically or personally draw the line in the sand from trend bologna sandwiches to fucking like your morning coffee? Do you know what I mean? Like,
there's a pretty good line in the sand. Like, I think Wider and everyone does it pretty good. There's a pretty good line in the sand between things that kind of help and things that really help.
Yeah, sure.
And like, if something's really helping,
yeah,
and it's not banned, it's going to be.
Well, I mean, they talk about the suits when they're swimming and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like,
if something's like a little bit of help, it's kind of fine. If it becomes too much help, gone.
Yeah, I mean, do we just bring it back to the like, if you're using an insulin pin for anything, it's out. Like, if you have to put it in your body via a needle, but there's stuff that you don't, right? Like, there's stuff that, like, on those lists, which are like orally taken, which like are illegal. Even like some certain pre-workouts, like you have to be mindful of the pre-workout that you take because there's certain compounds in those pre-workouts that you can't take if you're in a wider testing pool.
If you can't get it from an animal that falls from a tree or comes out of the dirt, you can't have it. That's it. So you can go and be liver king and eat bull's testicles if you want to.
I'm going
have
to keep
more
my semen
testosterone.
face masks up then for my skin health.
Didn't come from a tree.
You'll never find out who it came from. So bad. Talking of arousal.
Speaking of
speaking of like beta blockers and arousal and stuff like that, one of the things we wanted to touch on today was, and Louis sort of wanted to flag this one because he was interested in it, which was the arousal side of stuff of like peak arousal. And I talked a long time ago about listening to the same song. This probably ties into the nicotine and the ritual and like listening to the same song over and over for different events and like using salts and stuff. Like where do you find your peak or optimal arousal is? Because you and I are very, very different lifters. Where do you find your peak and optimal arousal is and some of your clients compared to others? And how do you start to look at that in terms of programming or like trying to help them with their approach to lifting?
Clients is so varied and so different from me. Like I've got some people that are very similar to me and some that are different.
Yes.
But I've got clients that need a good environment. Yeah. Like they need the right time of day with the right kind of people around them. They like having people and support. Yeah. Which is great. but that's obviously a
Hard to
weak.
rely on.
Yeah, it's a weak point. If they don't have it, then it becomes a hard training
Yeah.
session. And then I've got clients that hate that.
Yeah.
And they would love the gym to be completely empty and just them to focus on their shit.
Yeah.
So then when no one's around, great.
Yeah.
They're self-reliant.
Yeah.
And that's how they like, their best sessions are when they're by themselves. And then if they come into the gym and it's peak times, that's when it's like too much. And it's like people talk to them, sensory overload and stuff like that. I'm probably, besides training with you at times, I've always trained by myself.
Yep.
So I operate better like that.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily need music to do much.
Yep.
Whereas like I see you and everyone else, like headphones go in before you even warm up.
Yep.
Like that's the ritual, like headphones in, music on, it's time to work. Whereas the gym's music could have cut out and I wouldn't know for 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I don't really notice it.
Yep.
It's only deadlifts is probably the only thing where I need
you
something
put
loud
headphones
enough
in,
to kind of tell my brain to stop thinking, oh shit, this is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
You should probably not do
this.
I've tried music with log
Yep.
and I find it's worse regardless of like anything, whatever it is.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's the sound in my ears and like balance or it's just a distraction.
Yep.
Whereas I find log, I need to actually concentrate.
And do you use salts and stuff in training?
Yeah, I use salts like food, salt as needed.
Yeah.
Plentifully.
Yeah, I like it.
No, it just depends on the day. Like if it's heavy deadlifts, it's pretty much like a must.
Yep.
Log hit and miss. Like
Yep.
if it's feeling good through warm-ups, I try not to mess with it and then blind myself going in for a heavy log.
Yep, I agree. Do you find that you can pick day to day if you need to pick it up or pull it back?
Usually through like the middle of warm-ups.
Yeah.
Like I've had some sessions where I've come in dragging my feet thinking like I'm going to have to bang my head against the wall to make anything work.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
And then vice versa, I've come in like cartwheeling, being like, this is the fucking day, and then get to the warm-ups and I'm like, it's not the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's only one factor in it, I guess, as well, right? Like it's a part and parcel of your performance.
Yeah, it's the same with equipment and stuff. Like I think a lot of people think train hard, fight easy. That's like the classic saying. So like train with less equipment, train with less hype, train with like less things that can benefit you, and then on the day you'll have that benefit.
Yeah.
I want training to be good.
Yeah.
To build momentum, and I want to be able to hit good numbers and like get stronger.
Yeah.
So in training, I'll use everything that I can to make sure that the numbers are going up, the weight's going up. I'm building momentum into comp. I'm not having shit sessions because I'm like, hold on, I'm 5 weeks out from comp, can't use the salts yet.
Yeah.
That's a 3 week only
it's
thing.
It's a fine line though, right? Because if you hit that button, I know from me, like I'm different to you, obviously, but like I kind of need to hit the button hard a lot. But it does come with a drawback where like you will fluctuate, or your performance outcomes will fluctuate more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fine line between like you want the output throughout, you need exposure and you want the output through training, but you need to make sure that like you can still link your days together and your weeks together back to back and have it efficiently put together.
You have a shorter attention span than me though. Your window of like that peak and arousal, because it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
So that's got to be like short.
I got to move fast.
Because you're like, all right, I'm going to fucking send this. And like 3 weeks later, you're just like, oh, I don't feel good. Where you're like, I think I'm going to go run a marathon.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm sick of this. This shit's hard. And then for 3 weeks, it's just peak marathon running. And you're like, my hamstring hurts. I don't know why I do this. Whereas, like I said to a few people this year, because I've got people prepping for OSG.
Yeah.
And they don't feel like it's hard yet.
No,
They're like, I don't feel like it's hard yet. Like, I feel like I need to be lifting heavier. I don't feel ready. And I was like, you're not meant to feel ready 6 weeks out. And I said, that's what I felt like we did last year.
Yeah, we went too early.
Was I feel like we started early, which was great. And then I think as things got better, at about 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out, we really started, we were just like, shit feels good. Let's do this. And then we're hitting comp weight on like the overhead run fast. And it got to like 3 weeks out and you're like, I wish the comp was now.
Yeah.
I feel ready.
Yeah.
And then like, where do you go from there?
You do. And you also have to remember from like the standpoint of like building week to week and building momentum from week to week, but also from like learning experience from an injury perspective as well. Like you want to do lots of work light. Like you want to string those together. You want to move well. You want to get your movements dialed in. You want to string things together well. But you want to do more work light and build that.
Yep.
So the top end comes easy and is not problematic at all. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. People really experienced people really underestimate how quickly you can peak and get strong if you've got the base there. Like it doesn't actually take that long. Like a six weeks to push it up is probably all like most people have to like redline. Like you actually can't be up there for that much longer, right? Like anybody, not just me being a fucking ADHD hamster in a rat cage. You know what I mean? Like we only have like 6 weeks, right? So like you don't have you can send it up pretty hard and fast, but you want the under work, like the base work there. You've done a lot of the work. You've done a lot of the repetitions. So it does. So when you do hit the button and start to turn it up for 4 to 6 weeks, it will come and you will be ready on time. Not hitting that button early. It's like Fast and Furious where you hit that NOS button and like you fucking zoop and then some motherfucker comes straight past you who holds off that little bit longer, you know? That's what we're trying to do with our programming and the coaching side of stuff, I think. And it does feel like sometimes you're like, oh, I need to push now. Like it's coming into it. It's like,
yeah, you always want to feel ready with a couple of weeks spare.
Yeah.
Which is mentally a great spot to sit, but physically not a good spot to sit.
No, because then you end up treading water and you don't want to be treading water up in that high intensity zone either.
Yeah.
Not smart. And then you're like trying to balance your output.
So you'd have to go through different genres of music in your lead up, right? Like 8 weeks out, it's like classical.
Yeah.
5 weeks out, it's like punk. And then like 3 weeks out, it just gets heavy and grungy.
Yeah.
And like,
Start to crank it up.
Yeah, well, and the music keeps you back.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I do listen to the same, usually for a heavy comp or like a comp that means something or a lift that I'm like trying to lock into, I will use the same song on repeat for the whole session, like for the whole lift, right? And that will be different songs for the different lifts, like you were saying with like the lot, like there's a different level of arousal, right? So when I was doing Monster Dumbbell, it was like Renegades of Funk by Rage Against the Machine. It's like it pumps forward. It's not super heavy, but it's kind of flowy, and it's like it kind of like just ticks along, right? That's what I'm trying to do with a dumbbell. Like I can't have super high arousal with a dumbbell. Like you can't force it. You can't force a square peg into a round hole. Like you need to flow with a dumbbell. It's a bit of a dance. You need to be tight, but you need to be fluid, right? Same thing with a log. Like the log, I don't listen to like really heavy stuff because I've learned that like the arousal for log, I just need to pull it back a little bit so I can get those positions so I don't fuck it up. Because like landing into that rack position sets up my press. If I fuck that up, like my press will not be there, right? But for deadlift, really fucking heavy, lots of salts, like, like fucking full send, and generally the same for like squat previously, you know. So stones, it's picking up a fucking rock, like hit my head against a brick wall, like let's fucking go. Do you know what I mean? So it really is lift dependent, but I will have the same thing going for each kind of event, or pick a song for an event for that period of time because it helps me click in or like fall into that session straight away, like. Especially owning a gym and like working on the gym floor, I've got to create a veil between doing the thing, the work thing, and then doing the training thing, which can be very hard sometimes. So pre-workout caffeine is like just as much of a tool, and what it used to be before like I gave it up was like the nicotine thing. I was like, cool, like nicotine, pre-workout, I feel pretty good, like I'm going to go down. That's the curtain. That's my line in the sand. It's now time to train. And then you put that song in and it's like, okay, and you're warming up with that song on or whatever, and it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm starting to flow. Like my mood shifts, my energy shifts, my attention and focus narrows in. And that's what I'm trying to achieve when I'm doing that ritual stuff. But one of the things that we were going to talk about, which we've touched on, which is like, do you hold off the salts? Do you hold off the arousal in that competition prep to save it for comp day? And there's twofold. Like some people maybe, right? Like, but why would you sacrifice your training output and your numbers if you feel like your peak arousal is somewhere else? Like you want to get more out of your training. Your training is what leads you to get strong, right?
You also still have to, as mindless as lifting a stone and a deadlift is, you still have to do it somewhat right.
Yes.
So like if you're not used to being blinded by salts, coming in full red line and you don't know how to like at least channel that into one lift. That's going to be terrible on the day.
I think the ritual is more important than holding off like high level arousal. Like I think you could probably hold off caffeine, and I think you do have to be careful of like overcooking it, right?
Yep.
I don't think you can throw your salts in your face every session 5 days a week, hit 400 milligrams of caffeine every session 4 or 5 days a week, and think that you're going to be able to keep that up.
Yeah.
Like if you hit that adrenaline button a lot, you will find that on the flip side, like the recovery, like if you're going to put a whole bunch of like weight onto this end of the seesaw, like to balance it out, there's something's going to fucking crash over here. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're always hitting that not natural version of like, okay, cool, we'll dump a heap of caffeine into the system, right? We're going to dump in heaps of salt into the system. We're going to crank the music up really loud. So you're trying to find all these external sources of like to bring your arousal up to like a super relative load to your normal capacity to be able to create that. Then obviously it's going to have a flip side, right? So I think you got to be mindful of that, but I also think you want training output. So it has to be used intelligently through training. But like you were saying, I also know when I need to bring it down or when I need to bring it up in a session, right? I can warm up and I can be like, oh, I'm going to need salts today on monster dumbbell.
Yep.
Should I use salts on monster dumbbell? Generally, no. But I'm fucking tired. And like, I'm at a 2 and I need to be at a 7 for dumbbell. I don't need to be at an 11, but I need to be a 7. I might need to fucking G up this a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of understanding that, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that come in way too hyped with way too much energy just as their personality.
Yeah.
And they're probably the people that need it the least.
Yes.
Like they need to find music that like matches where they need to be at.
Mm.
They might come in at 11 because they're just keen.
Yeah.
Especially people that are newer.
Yeah. Jittery.
Or it's a big comp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
First
8
time in a
weeks
big
out.
comp's a big one.
And they're excited. So they're like, I'm going to work so fucking hard at this. And they just kill themselves months out.
Or like coming into a big comp, like understanding, like, do you listen to music before a comp?
I used to a lot.
Yeah.
As in like in warm-ups and stuff through the day. I used to a lot, and then over the years it's just become more effort.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah. Something else to rely on.
Yeah, it was more just taking headphones in and out and just like also picking music. Sometimes I'm just like indecisive and I'm like, I can't be fucked.
Sure.
So,
And that ruins your mood too.
Yeah.
I find it's like trying to fuck around on Netflix
Listen to
for
something
3
and I'm
hours
like,
trying to find a
"Fuck,
movie.
not that song, not this song." So I did a lot when I first started out, and I found that helped a lot.
Yeah. I need to hold off. Like I'm pretty keen. Like I don't get excited for comps, but like when I get in that warm up area, like kind of like chewing my gums.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm kind of like, all right, cunt, let's do this thing. Like let's fucking turn it on. Like it's time to do the thing, right? Time to do the thing. And I need to hold. Like I need to like, whoa boy, like bring it back a bit for a bit. Like you're gonna hit that button too early. I'll usually listen to classical piano because I'm a big music person, right? Like I grew up with music. I like music. I've always listened to music. When I did art and stuff like that, I'd always, like when I was a kid, I'd hang out in my room with stuff playing and like whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like I've always had that music side. So I'll listen to classic solo piano.
Yep.
If you see me sitting on a chair with my eyes closed or like just focusing before a big competition or like something, it'll be classic piano. In my warm-ups, it'll be classic piano.
Or just pacing out the back because you can't warm up.
Yeah. And then when it's time to warm up, then I'll chuck on something heavy. Like when it's time to actually warm up with the implements, then it's time to start like putting on something heavy. And I find that switch going from like something chill to like immediately goes, okay, cool, different space. And that really helps.
Yeah, I don't have that much different music that I listen to. I'll listen to some like EDM music depending on like the speed of it.
Yeah.
I think probably beats,
I like
beats
it for
per minute
cardio.
is- Yeah, even like training. Like I think you just need to get the right speed.
Yes. Yeah.
Like if it's like hard style and it's just like like some of the people in the gym here, the powerlifters listen to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you only do sets of 3 and
And
everything's
it's
slow.
slow.
Why
It's
are you
like
listening
tempo,
to something that's going do? I'm like, that doesn't match.
Yeah.
So like even the same with deadlifts, I'm like, I kind of want something to match what
The
I'm
flow.
doing
Yeah, flow.
and where I need to be, because
agree.
I find that helps and helps keep me in time.
I certainly know that like pending a client, like I've got Brady, for example, who put up a post of me like with my head against his head, slapping him, like basically slapping him in the face, being like, come on, motherfucker, like turn another. Like he's like, we're eyes, like it's very intimate. Him and I are like our eyes just like staring at each other as angry gorillas out the back, and I'm just geeing him up, and he needs that. That's where he where he likes to function. Who am I not to give him that? You know.
Yeah.
But then like let's like lockdown start. Like then I've got to wait. Well, I'm like, are you good? Like, are you here? And he's like, yeah, I'm here. And I was like, all right. I figured out pretty quick because it's the first time because he's New Zealand. Like, it's the first time you've like handled him in a comp. I figured out after like, log, it was like, okay, step back, just let him do his thing. It'd be like, I'll just check in on him. You good?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm good. But he's quiet. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, but you function up here.
like day to day, I function up there, so I have a very hard time with those kind of people.
I've been at comps where you're just like, all right, it's overheads. This is your fucking event.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what do you need? Do you need anything? Do you need
Okay,
water? Do you
I'm
need
good.
this and that? And I'm like, go away.
Yeah, when
I need you to leave.
when I coached him at like Arnold's, I'd be like, all right, bro, let's go. Like we go to a big Arnold's, and he's like, no, I'm good. Like, all right, I'm gonna go back to the bleachers then. Cool. Yes, very much so. Yeah. So yeah, everyone's different, but I think there's like a lot of strategies that you can employ. I really like the same song thing. That really, really helps me, but it just depends on who you are, right?
Yeah, I have a handful. Like I said, there's a little bit of like EDM, but otherwise it goes back to like
Katie dubstep every single time. Every time.
Same song.
Oh, bruh.
Same drop.
Yeah. God love you, Katie. But every time it's like she's going for like a record or something in the gym, it's like crank the music, and then it's the same song. And then she'll have 5 fucking attempts at the same weight or the same lift. So like every second, it's like, okay, next one.
I don't mind the song, actually.
Yeah, it's actually
don't- like,
the
the
song's
build-up-
all right.
the build-up's quite
but the
good.
problem is like she'll crank it and then she'll turn it down or change the song, and then like 2 minutes later she'll be like, back up, same spot. You're like, whoa.
Same intro back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like old punk stuff that I used to listen to when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like, it's the pace, it's what I know. There's heaps of songs that like
In general,
probably
for training,
pull back
right?
like emotion
Yeah.
as well. Because it's stuff that I listened to when I like used to skate.
Yeah.
Because I used to just listen to music the whole time while I skated. And that was obviously like fast paced music.
Yeah.
So I was used to that.
Same thing, like
Or it's-
accessories. Like accessory music versus like main lift music. Do you know what I mean? Or
I'd
like
have that
cardio
as, I'd have
music.
that as main lift music.
Yeah.
Metal doesn't really cut it for me.
Yeah. Drowns out after.
It'd be
10 years
that,
of street gyms.
or there's a heap of like anime or just instrumental stuff that
yeah.
doesn't have lyrics. The
Yeah.
lyrics seem to fuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I either just focus on like the lyrics and what's being said and not the music. Whereas when there's no lyrics,
Yeah, you can just kind of get into the groove.
yeah.
That makes sense too.
So always changes. Otherwise, there's some of like the games songs, like soundtracks.
Yep.
From games, because it's the same sort of thing. It's mostly instrumental.
We used to have 2 Steps from Hell radio at Strong Geelong
Yeah.
non-stop. One of the old members who, Lucky Josie, shout out, used to train at the old gym. Got asked once upon a time, because he lives in Bendigo, he has a gym and stuff like that. What was it like training at Strong Geelong when you were down there, right? Like someone was really interested. He described it as a long concrete tunnel full of giant cunts screaming at each other while listening to orchestral music. And I was like, yes, that was a period.
Yeah.
Like I was always 2 Steps from Hell, hitting like AMRAP sets all the time. Yeah.
I used to do cardio to like, it was either like Rammstein for some reason, because I could just walk with the beat of
Rammstein
it.
makes me think of Czech Republic, like training at the Temple of Power.
Or it was like 2 Steps from Hell.
Yeah.
And I'd go do cardio and like walk up a hill, and it felt like listening to that, I walked a mountain.
Yeah.
Like I trekked
I'm about
a
to drop
mountain.
off the ring into Mordor.
Just play any 2 Steps from Hell song and just wake up and like brush your teeth in the morning. It'll be the most intense, like brushing your teeth. Like you've just achieved something epic.
My life is epic.
Like it's just that soundtrack that just you want playing in the background of everything that you do.
Yeah, I might start doing that.
Just put 2 Steps from Hell on and go shopping.
From the get
With the shopping cart, and you're just like, it works well. So like I like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Last one for today. I feel like we unintentionally made this quite, or did we? Quite spicy. The last one is championing your sport comrades versus an Instagram motherfucker or no, that's not the case. Championing your comrades versus like supporting or thinking that someone's going to come from another sport and fuck everyone up. Right? We've seen this a bit.
I was wondering where that was going. That was
Yeah, sorry. That
reworded
was
very differently.
I lost it. I'm getting tired. Basically, what we're talking about is, we see this a lot at the highest level. People get a lot of hype coming into another sport, whether it's like powerlifting or strongman. Usually, in our regard, it's going to be strongman, right? We have powerlifters or weightlifters or CrossFitters or whatever it is come over to strongman because we're kind of the all sport, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of like that little bit. There's some weightlifting things in there. There's some CrossFit stuff that carries over. There's powerlifting can carry over. And everyone is always going, oh, well, so-and-so is doing the comps. So, like, they'll obviously win when they transfer over. It's like, if you're a strongman fan, shouldn't you be championing the people that are the strong men and women? Like, shouldn't you be championing your comrades that you support, that compete with you, that give back to the sport? No. So-and-so is going to come in. They're going to dominate, right?
Yeah, it's such a weird mindset of everyone being like, oh, I hope that CrossFitters come in and smash everyone and beat you all. And it's
Why do you want that?
Why do you want? Oh, because they'd be so much better when they come and compete. Every single CrossFitter that I've seen come in and compete, even at like a state level, didn't win.
They're good.
Weightlifters, same thing at Vix, didn't win. Win the overhead because it's a barbell, cool. Give them a log or a dumbbell, won't win that either. But if you're comparing a national level athlete in a different sport that comes in and competes at a more local level, our sport, and they're like, oh my God, they're going to win. They won, they smashed it. Of course they fucking did. They're a national level athlete.
Yes.
Take a national level strongman and throw them in a local powerlifting meet. They're probably going to win.
Yes.
Or a weightlifting comp.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll butcher the lifts and make them ugly, but we'll lift it.
Yeah.
So it's like comparing
I
like...
Probably won't snatch, to be fair.
No, I reckon I could still jump in a local comp and I could still do it. It'd be a very ugly power snatch.
But if you did a local comp, you'd probably do quite well, right? Like,
yeah, and you're a national level athlete, you should.
Yeah, but you shouldn't because you've used PEDs, but just saying.
But they shouldn't be praised like they're amazing because they're beating local level people.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, right?
And I think if you match national athlete in one sport crossing over into other sport against other national athletes, they don't win.
No.
Because it's specific.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard. Like, it's different.
Because there's elements to a sport that are specific, hence the rule of specificity, right?
Yeah.
So, like, implements or training. Like yes, if you get a weightlifter or a CrossFitter that comes over that trains specifically for strongman over X period of time and they've got a great base and they're a great athlete, well, then they're probably going to do very well because they're a great athlete, not because of what they come. But at that point, they're a strongman or strongwoman, not a CrossFit athlete, not a weightlifter, right? Is that
whereas... fair? I don't know, like if a bunch of us went and did like GPC nationals, nobody would be like, oh, the strongmen are coming. They don't care. Like, it's only our sport that seem to just throw the
strongman or woman under the bus.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, we're shit. They're going to be way better when they come in.
Then praise everyone else. So like 2018 was the first year that both Camilla and Nah did Arnold's.
Yeah.
So that was both their probably first big strongman comp.
Yeah. Camilla being a Commonwealth level weightlifter.
Yeah, so she came from weightlifting.
Amazing athlete already, right?
Yeah. And then Nah, CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Had done the CrossFit Games as a team's athlete, like very strong CrossFitter.
Yeah, sure.
So they both came across in 2018 and both camps, like WA and then Taz, everyone there is just like everyone in Taz is like, this person's coming into the sport. She's going to demolish
know what hit them, yeah.
She's going to take over. Yeah. Camilla came 7th.
Yeah.
Nah came 5th.
Yeah.
Now, after that, they stuck with the sport, and the following year, they both won.
Yeah.
But at that point, they're strong man athletes or strong women
athletes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. At that point, they're just strong man athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like John Hack did Chaos.
Yep.
He's going to win. Came 3rd.
Yeah.
He's done strongman before
and
too.
He's the strongest motherfucker who's ever lived.
Yeah, that's also a very bad comparison because he is
actually like one of the strongest people who ever lived and still came 3rd.
Yes.
Right? And then you've got like great examples in like Cam and Nah. national or international level quality athletes, international quality athletes, right? Games, competition like CrossFit Games and like Commonwealth. I don't know whether she actually went to the Commonwealth Games. I can't recall.
Sure.
So sorry, Cam. But like international level weightlifter, and then spend the 12 months, like, yes, don't win because they've just crossed over. They don't have the skills yet. They haven't trained like that. And then obviously they're just inherently good athletes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you'll cross over from a sport. If you are a good athlete and have high potential in a sport, you will get good at it by training specifically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So my hopes for anybody that crosses over from like CrossFit, weightlifter or anything, if they sign up for VIX or anything, I hope they don't win, because as a top athlete, that makes you hungry to want to do more.
Yeah.
If you just
Like,
roll in,
it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
yeah, I've seen people that just roll into comps and do one comp and win, and they're like, oh, well, I probably won't do anymore.
Yeah.
And they kind of get over it. Like, yeah, I'd want someone that's highly competitive in a different sport to come into a state level, one of our comps, get beat, and then go, oh, okay, I got to work at this.
Or like, it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind going to like middleweight series or lightweight series. And it was like, well, you're going to make it there.
Yeah, and they don't qualify.
And then you got to realize, like even some of like my strongman athletes, like you realize, like, I want them to make it there because I understand that like they're not there yet.
Yeah.
And it's good for them. And it's the same thing with like, it's like, even if you did make it there, you have to realize that if you're a national level athlete and you're doing a state comp, and even if you come first or second in that comp and get the qualification, like, you're not going to do well at middleweight series. Maybe this year's events. In fairness.
Yeah, maybe very different.
Yeah, maybe very different. But like in general, at that higher level, like the carryover is not going to be there against the best of the country. Like the carryover for us would not be there if we went to GPC states, we would do quite well, right? If we went to nationals or Zero Pro or Pro or something like that, the likelihood of us coming first is quite low.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some fucking killers. Do you know what I mean? So it changes the dynamic.
Yeah. So like, I hope that they don't win, and that, because it's very hard to like nurturing someone's like motivation, competitiveness to keep coming back.
Yeah.
Is a lot harder and a lot more delicate than what people think.
Well, it's
people think that athletes will just keep showing up for years and years and years, and it's like, no, they'll disappear. They always do.
Yes.
And to like have somebody come close but not win just enough to get them hungry enough to go to the next one and the next one and the next one.
There's a name for the rule of that. Where when learning a new task or doing a certain thing, the task needs to be a certain amount of difficult but achievable. But it can't be too easy, and can't be too far away. It can't be too easy, but it can't be too far away. It needs to be right. And you need some successes, but not too much success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like a real delicate line that you walk while trying to move someone through like like keeping motivation in a task, you know, or learning a new task and getting good. So yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah, that's where anyone that's new that comes from a different sport, I hope they fall into that.
Yeah.
Because that's likely to keep them.
Yes.
Like everybody being like, oh, I hope they win. It's like, well, they're never going to come back.
Yeah.
Which is even worse.
Yeah, if they smoke it, it's like, yeah, well, I won at a state level. Like, unless they go to the national level and they get their ass handed to them and they go, oh, cool, like, I'm going to have to try at this now.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to train. That's everything for us today. So, like, the summation, we'll give a little quick recap. Like, the strongman, Static Monsters on the weekend, Logged Dead Stone. We had Cam with a 153.1 world record. We had Colonel with a 185 world record on the stone, and Scott Walker with a 352 on the deadlift, which is fantastic. We talked about the records, dual weight classes. We tend to both agree that you shouldn't be able to take dual records, right? Not really. We talked about natural federations and could you take records in a natural federation and a federation, like obviously no, unless there was testing, right? So it would be single federation, and also talking about like the necessity for testing and where is the line with taking PEDs and what PEDs and timeline with jumping into a natural federation or not. Songs and arousal, and then championing your own strong man or strong woman athletes over others. Happy?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Have a lovely week. We'll see you in a fortnight. That is the Strongman Say Out. Enjoy, happy lifting, get strong.